So you really haven't seen her anywhere?
Sorry to say, Philip, but I haven't. I really hope she's okay, though. I'd hate for something bad to happen to her.
Yeah, same. Well, if you see her anywhere or catch any sign of where she may be, please contact me or Linkara about it.
Understood. Good luck to you, Philip.
Thanks, Tifa.
And just what are you up to?
The hell do you mean, what am I up to? I'm trying to look for Zen. I'm shocked you're not doing the same, honestly.
That isn't true. Kana and I have been going around several locations that Mother frequents. We haven't found her anywhere, unfortunately. I really hope this isn't because...
What are you mumbling to yourself about?
Oh, it's none of your business. I'm just really worried about her.
Well, I can't say I blame you, to be honest. It isn't like Zen to just up and vanish like that out of nowhere. Last I saw her was at the end of the Scott Pilgrim review. Are you sure you and Kana didn't see her afterwards? Hello, Tachiaki.
Ugh, just shut up. I already told you. Neither me nor Kana had any interaction with her after the two of you did that anniversary video. Besides, you saw Kana. Do you think she'd be lying about not seeing her?
Yeah, that's a very good point. She was quite stressed, wasn't she?
It's all my fault! It's all my fault! Mommy got so fed up with me asking for that belt that she ran away! She hates me now! She'll never pet me again! I need to find her! I need to find her now! Who'll take care of us if she's not here? Who'll give me snacks? Who'll have sodas around for me to knock over? Who'll be here for me to spook every Halloween? Who?
I'd hate to imagine what she would have done if we weren't here to calm her down.
Well, regardless, what have you been doing this entire time? You say you're looking for Mother, and yet you've cooped yourself up in the TARDIS all day. It seems like you're the one not trying hard enough.
Well, actually, I'm calling all of Zen's friends. Thought maybe one of them would know where she is. Luckily, all her contacts were brought over when Linkara and 90s Dude upgraded the TARDIS.
Yeah, I've got to admit, they did a bang-up job on the new interior. It looks stunning. I wish Mother were here to see it.
What's crazy to me, though, is just how many contacts Zen has. I mean, look at all of them. How the hell did she know Megami 33? She's a major voice actress in One Piece. Did she ever tell you how she met some of these people?
Well, now that you mention it, no. She hasn't spoken much about her past. I tried asking her once, but she changed the subject. I get the feeling something bad happened to her, but I didn't want to pry.
Good idea. I wish I knew more about her, but if she doesn't want to talk about it, it's best we leave it for now. But at the very least, the next person is somewhat familiar.
So that's where Samurai Jack got all its visuals from. It's from an old, forgotten Russian cartoon. Tartakovsky, you sneak. Hello?
Hi, Noah, right? My name's Philip. We haven't met yet, but I'm a friend of Zen's.
Oh, okay. Can I ask how you got this number?
Well, Zen had it on the TARDIS's database, so it was easy to find. That's not important right now, though. You see, Zen's gone missing, and her cats and I have no idea where she's gone. I'm calling to see if you've seen her recently. I saw her about a week ago, but I didn't notice she was missing until 3 days ago. Have you seen her in that time?
No, I haven't. Sorry to say, but I haven't talked to Zen in quite a number of weeks. Not since she did that Dark Crystal review and completely left out all of Jim Henson's history from the review. We talked once afterwards, but since then, I haven't talked to her in quite a while.
I see. Well, you have this number now, so if you see her or any sign of her, please let me know.
No problem. Whatever your name was.
Damn it, Zen! Where are you?
This is going to get you nowhere, Philip.
Well, I have to do something. I'm not just gonna sit around while Zen's probably in trouble, or worse. No, I can't think like that. If we're gonna find Zen, I have to trust that she's fine.
I mean, you could try calling Linkara.
Oh, nah, do you really think I didn't try that? I asked him when he came down to upgrade the TARDIS. He hasn't seen her since before the anniversary. I'm keeping in contact with both him and 90s Dude for any other updates. They're probably the only other people in a position to help.
You say only other people, but that implies you're helpful right now, which honestly is far from the truth.
Okay, that's it. What is your deal, Chiaki? Your mother is missing. Now is really not the best time to have this pointless back and forth. I don't even want to dislike you. I really don't get why you've been so passive-aggressive towards me ever since we met.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because ever since you showed up, things have been getting weirder and more ominous around here. I still have very little reason to trust you, all things considered. Now, if you want to run in circles and try and phone up everyone who Mother knows, even though it'll lead you nowhere, be my guest. I, on the other hand, am going to actively try to find her.
Chiaki! You know, for someone who's named after the best Danganronpa girl, she really is a fucking grump. Well, at least the upside is that Zen left a bunch of videos to upload in the meantime. Don't know how long these will last, but oh well, whatever. Well, got no other plans at the moment, so time for the next person, I guess.
You have reached the phone of Sunny Jim. Who are you, and why are you interrupting my midnight snack?
This is gonna take a while. Well, that didn't work. No surprise there. Oh, yeah, I guess I should post one of Zen's reviews. Let's see, what do we got in the backlog? Oh, Transformers Animated. That works. It's been a while since the last Zen TV episode anyway. Huh, that's weird. When did you get that outfit?
Hello, everybody. I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns. And welcome back to Zen TV, where I take a look at one of the numerous different shows in my collection. Yup, we're finally doing another Zen TV episode after all this time, and this one is a very special review indeed. Some of you may have noticed that this isn't exactly My Little Pony, which was the next series I said we'd be covering on the show. And fear not, we will be getting to it very soon, but for today, we're actually going to be tackling our first Patreon request. Although, technically, it's only the first request for the Bun Squad specifically. You see, for those not in the know, I used to take requests from my patrons back on my old channel for movies and games that they wanted me to review. However, I was young and inexperienced back then, so it took me far longer to make these reviews, as I was still figuring out my format and finding my voice. At the same time, patrons really seemed to love History of One Piece and my old Final Fantasy I retrospective, so the patron requests streamed in to the point where I was completely overwhelmed and had to shut it all down. I have a document listing all of the old requests, and we will get to them eventually due to fan demand and a general desire to review them anyway, but you should know it is a long list. There are at least 20 of them from Twilight Falchion alone that I need to either redo or create from scratch, which is even worse when you take into account that he wanted me to cover entire Falcom game series, including Ys and Trails, which are long-running franchises with over 10 entries apiece. I'll say right now that for this new system, I'm barring any requests for entire series like this, since it puts way too much of a damper on our already existing schedule, and when it comes to my breathing, I already have enough trouble as is just doing a single review. I don't need all of that extra work. Don't worry, Twilight, I still love you, even though you want me to review all of this. As you can probably gather, this was far too much for me to do on my own, and around mid-2014, I entered a deep depression that hampered my ability to make videos, period. This eventually led to me discovering that I was trans, and so I spent the next few years dealing with this and figuring out what to do with my channel. After debating this for a good long while, I decided to start from scratch with a new channel and a new way of doing things that would fit better with my newly discovered gender. This also meant redoing past patron requests and finding a way to make them less taxing. With this in mind, we will still be doing the old requests gradually as the years go on, but the new format is that patrons are only allowed to make requests once every 6 months. Even then, there are only 3 slots to ensure that we don't have a flood of requests on our hands. In addition, Phil has taken the reins and limited the scope of requests with a few rules that I wanted to go over real quick to avoid future confusion. Skip to this time code if you just want to move on with the actual review. While movies are largely unaffected, since they are easier for me to cover, TV shows and anime will be limited to 13 to 26 episode seasons, since anything longer than that would be too big to cover on short notice. Heck, even then, depending on episode length, even a 20 episode series may be too much. It'll definitely be something we look at on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, tokusatsu shows are limited to first impressions covering specific arcs, given that most of them are long-running series. That being said, if a season of a toku show does happen to fit under the requirements that are in place for both TV shows and anime, then they will absolutely be eligible. For example, we received a request for Ultraman RB not too long ago, which is only 25 episodes, making it fine for a patron request. Usually, tokusatsu shows are around 50 episodes, which is a bit too long. We do ask, however, that you take into account the legal availability of these shows and how easily we're able to obtain them. And finally, on the topic of games, we admittedly don't have many hard rules as of yet, since all games are different and will vary in terms of completion time. The only thing we'll say for now is that if a game takes longer than around 35 to 40 hours to complete, it is very likely we will have to turn down your request. Basically, games like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Fate Stay Night, When They Cry, or other RPGs and visual novels. I will get to them in my own time, but requests for these massive time sinks will be turned down. With these rules in place, we hope to continue fulfilling patron requests, taking care of all the old ones as we go, like we did with the Dark Crystal, and allowing patrons to still make requests for the future. So with all of that out of the way, for today's request, Troy Lundquist has asked that I take a look at the first season of Transformers Animated, since he is a huge fan of the franchise and wanted me to get absorbed into the collective consciousness of the Transformers fanbase. With that being said, let's dive into the first season of Transformers Animated. When it comes to Transformers, I unfortunately have a very scattered history with the franchise. I remember my cousin Steve talking to me about the G1 series since he was far older and grew up with it in the 80s, but I'm far too young to have seen it myself. I remember my first series being Transformers Armada when it first premiered on Toonami back in the day. I know I watched quite a few episodes of the show when I was younger, along with Transformers Energon and Cybertron, but I honestly can't remember much about the show. I would have been in my early tween years when they aired, and much of that time is a blur. I do remember enjoying the shows, but I have more memories of Zoids, Beyblade, and even Metabots than I have of this series, to be honest. I also remember seeing an episode of Transformers Animated when it aired, possibly the Weird Al one, but I think I was moving onto Adult Swim shows at that time and didn't really watch any of Transformers Animated too closely. I didn't get back into the franchise until 2007 when the feature film debuted in theaters, which I honestly still really like despite its problems.
It looks like your distributor capsule.
This is repression, what you're doing here. You're ruining my youth, okay?
Better call the city, we got a blown transformer.
The boy's pheromone level suggests he wants to mate with the female.
I'll review it one of these days, but in short, the robots do feel very over-designed, primarily the Decepticons, and a lot of the CGI does blend in together, but the film was a big vehicle for Shia LaBeouf, and it really worked for him at the time. While there is deserved hate for him these days, he did fantastic in Holes, and I think he made this film enjoyable, along with the fantastic voice cast, especially for Optimus Prime and Megatron.
We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron. You fail me yet again, Starscream.
Say what you will about the rest of the films, but I still have a soft spot for the first entry in the Bayformers franchise. Although the fighting in the desert does get a bit much at times, and there is a lot of military propaganda involved due to September 11th and the ongoing Iraq War. I was rather excited for the second film, Revenge of the Fallen, and saw it with a large group of friends from the summer camp that I worked at. It's, well,
I am directly below. Enemy scrotum.
A review for another time. Let's just say it is exceedingly juvenile, and while I liked parts when I was younger, it has not aged well at all, and was the last Transformers film that I saw in theaters. Due to numerous negative reviews, I decided not to see Dark of the Moon and fell out of the fan base for a while until last year when Crimson started their research for their superhero rundown episode on the Transformers movies. While I thankfully was not asked to watch any of the Michael Bay films, thank God, they sat me down one night in between Godzilla King of the Monsters and Doctor Strangelove to show me Bumblebee, which actually turned out to be really damn good. The main difference to me for Bumblebee is that there seems to be actual effort put into the cinematography, storytelling, and characters. It's not just a string of unfunny jokes that far outlast their welcome, but instead paints a very interesting character-driven film about how the Autobots came to Earth and how Bumblebee lost his voice. This is what the rest of the film should have been, with nods to the lore of the franchise, but focus on telling a unique story that stands on its own and is fun to watch. Not this.
Hold those.
What is that?
What? I wear them when I'm in a funk.
Bumblebee is a damn fun film that's well shot and acted, and makes me sad that we had to suffer through all of that dreck that came in the Bayformers franchise. I mean, it has John Cena in it.
They literally call themselves Decepticons. That doesn't set off any red flags?
It is a great film, and something anyone should watch since it doesn't require any prior knowledge of the Bay films, thankfully. Bumblebee actually got me interested in Transformers again, along with Linkara's Marvel Then Meets the Eye retrospective that came out earlier last year, covering Marvel's complete run of Transformers comics from G1 and G2. I started discussing watching Generation 1 Transformers at some point since I wanted to learn more. And in response to this, Troy became a patron and asked me to review Season 1 of Transformers Animated since it was his favorite series and can be viewed without any prior knowledge. I'm going into this show with just a mishmash of lore and knowledge from various different places, especially cultural osmosis, since there's a lot we knew about as kids without really being told. Optimus Prime being the leader of the Autobots and waging war against the evil forces of the Decepticons. I mean, it's in the damn theme song for crying out loud. I also knew a bit about Beast Wars since everybody seems to love its lore, as well as Beast Wars Megatron.
Yes.
I learned about Black Arachnia and how treacherous Starscream was in all the classic antics of the Decepticons, but again, this is just secondhand knowledge. So, I'm really glad Transformers Animated is a standalone series, since that means it can pave its own path with its own lore, while still weaving references to past shows within its story and Easter eggs, which I managed to pick up since they are fairly obvious. If I get something wrong about the many decades and seasons of the show that came before this, I do apologize, but I have such a weird history with this franchise, and there's a lot of different lore that I don't know or might be misremembering from my childhood. Still, Troy wants me to discuss this season, so from a casual Transformers fan's perspective, let's discuss Transformers Animated Season 1. As most of you may be aware, Transformers Animated is yet another entry in the long-running Transformers franchise created by Hasbro to sell toys. Started in the 80s alongside other major properties such as G.I. Joe and My Little Pony during this time period, most of these shows were simply created to advertise the toys that Hasbro were selling, and the stories and characters were merely whatever the creative team wanted to do at the time. Kids were meant to see how cool these toys were based on the show and want to buy them, which led to a ton of disposable content. While I never saw much of these shows myself, I do remember He-Man being fun but generic. Same with Thundercats, although that theme song did kick ass. At the same time, the first generation of these shows all had the same idea of having the characters be one-note caricatures that don't grow, evolve, or change all that much over the course of the season. G1 Transformers is highly regarded from what I can tell, but even diehard fans acknowledge the flaws. Transformers Animated is the 6th era in the history of the franchise, with a lot having changed since the original series. I unfortunately can't say how much, since I didn't see many of these shows growing up, but I do know that G1 and G2 followed the general template established. Beast Wars was the CGI era, and Armada was the anime version that aired on Toonami. What I can say is that Animated took the franchise in a new direction by being entirely standalone, as opposed to shows like Beast Wars, which continued on with G1's continuity. Transformers Animated was a series led by the minds of Sam Register, Matt Youngberg, and Derek J. Wyatt. Sam, who was responsible for the creation of Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi, was Cartoon Network's vice president at the time and had brought Matt on board as the supervising director and Derek as the lead character designer. Just to give some context, Matt Youngberg has been responsible for some amazing animated shows, including being the supervising producer on Ben 10 Omniverse and the showrunner on the 2017 DuckTales reboot. Derek J. Wyatt, on the other hand, has worked as the character designer for many fan favorites, including Omniverse, the original Teen Titans, and Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which explains a lot about the art style of this show. Add in the Japanese animation teams, Mook Animation, The Answer Studio, and Studio 4 Degrees Celsius, and you've got a star-studded team that was placed on the show. Unsurprisingly, Transformers Animated is often hailed as one of the best iterations of Transformers by fans for its unique take on the source material. Hell, when I tweeted out that I was patron to watch this show, Nash from Radio Dead Air, who is a good friend of mine, stated flat out that this is the best Transformers series, period. That's a high bar to be sure, but does it live up to the hype? Let's find out, shall we? When it comes to the story of Transformers Animated, there's certainly far more than most episodic shows of the time, but it's not quite as serialized as a lot of modern cartoons. The best way to describe it is Teen Titans, but with giant robots, since there is a lingering long-term narrative over the course of the season, but most of the story is left in the background, much like Blood Blockade Battlefront. Most of the ongoing plot is laid out in the 3-part pilot, with the rest of the show mainly focusing on the characters. The story centers on a group of 5 Autobots who work on a maintenance crew. Optimus Prime, a robot from the Academy, has been reassigned to this crew for reasons he doesn't wish to discuss, along with Ratchet, an old worn medical bot who served during the war with the Decepticons millions of years ago. One of the cool things in this case is that they showcase footage from G1 as a historical record of the war that Optimus is learning about, although Ratchet wants to forget the past altogether due to his war injuries and trauma. On the maintenance crew, we have Bulkhead, a wrecker bot, Prowl, a ninja who is skilled in deception, and the fan favorite Bumblebee, a speedy and young robot with electric stingers. This ragtag group of Autobots is tasked with repairing space bridges when an object mysteriously appears out of the space bridge that they are currently repairing. It turns out to be the legendary Allspark, which gave life to all of the Transformers and was hidden in a faraway galaxy after the war between the Autobots and the evil Decepticons. As soon as they retrieve the Allspark, they get warning of a Decepticon ship approaching, and they bring it aboard the maintenance ship to deliver it to Autobot HQ. Unfortunately, the size of the Decepticon warship is too big for them to outmaneuver, and their weapons are offline due to a shortage of Energon, the power source of the Transformers. After a thrilling dogfight in space, we are introduced to the evil forces of the Decepticons. Lugnut, a hulking robot with little intelligence, Blitzwing, a robot with 3 different personalities due to experimentation to create 2 different vehicle modes, Black Arachnia, a robot infused with spider DNA who is simply scary, Starscream, the ever-treacherous right hand of the Decepticons who wastes no time in plotting to destroy their leader, and the main man himself, Megatron, a robot who towers above all else, oozing charisma and intimidation with every word he says. Together, they form the greatest threat the Autobots have ever known, especially since this crew is ill-equipped to take on warbots. After a thrilling chase, Megatron transforms into a giant jet and personally heads over to the Autobot spaceship to retrieve the Allspark. However, in a twist that shocked absolutely no one, Starscream planted a bomb on Megatron's back to take him out and become Supreme Leader himself.
What a twist!
Back on the ship, Megatron is alive but heavily damaged by the blast. Even in this state though, he manages to fight off all 5 Autobots with relative ease, only getting damaged due to Prowl's deception skills and them turning off the artificial gravity. As they continue to fight, the ship is sucked through the space bridge into another galaxy, sending a huge explosion that cripples the Decepticon ship, although everyone but Starscream evacuates beforehand. Back with the Autobots, Megatron just keeps coming and almost retrieves the Allspark, only to be foiled by quick thinking from Optimus, who opens the space lock and kicks him out into space, much in the same way as Kirk defeating Kruge in Star Trek III. Megatron crash lands in a field on Earth and is found by a scientist known as Isaac Sumdac, while the Autobots land in Lake Erie, entering stasis pods to survive the crash. 50 years go by as the landscape of Detroit changes thanks to Sumdac using Megatron's components to build a robotics corporation. In this futuristic city, robots and humans coexist, with robots being used as hot dog vendors, street sweepers, the police force, and anything else the city requires. It appears to be a utopia, but one of Sumdac's experiments goes rogue, and even the police force, helmed by Captain Fanzone, can't seem to take care of this monstrous creation. Fanzone is one of my favorite characters of the series. He acts as a Commissioner Gordon type character, with him helping out the Autobots, but he's more of a comedic entity with his quirk of being a complete technophobe.
This is why I hate machines. This is why I hate machines. This is why I hate machines!
He is an absolute delight, and his running gag of machines not working just for him and him reacting in anger is simply priceless. I love it. In any case, with Fanzone unable to help, the Autobots are awakened from their slumber by the monster and manage to defeat it with some tech of their own. They save Sumdac's daughter Sari from the monster, and she tags along with Bumblebee to the maintenance ship because she thinks the Autobots are incredibly cool. Inside the ship, Sari finds the Allspark and it speaks to her, transforming her security key into a mystical key charged with the energy of the Allspark. She uses it to patch up Prowl, who is injured in the fight, and they bring Sari back to her father, where the Autobots are treated as heroes for saving the city. The three-parter ends with a battle against Starscream, who makes his way to Earth and attempts to use the Allspark as a weapon. With help from Sari and her key, and a sacrifice from Optimus, they manage to defeat Starscream for the time being. It appears as if Optimus has died for the, 50th time this week. However, Sari's key revives him, and they allow Sari to join the team and help the Autobots as their ambassador for Earth. She gives them their own secret headquarters like Batman, and thus the series truly begins. Unbeknownst to them and Starscream, however, Megatron is brought back online and tricks Sumdac into believing he is an Autobot so that Sumdac will willingly develop a new body for him and secretly plot against those who wronged him. This three-part pilot, dubbed Transform and Roll Out, is a very strong start to the series as it gives us a lot of time to get acclimated to these characters. We learn a lot about them in the course of 3 episodes, and it plants seeds for mysteries that will unfold throughout the series. For example, why was Optimus demoted to maintenance duty in the first place? What happened to Ratchet that made him so grumpy all the time? And what is the significance of Sari's key? It presents a lot of information, but it's very easy to parse and get a feel for the stakes of the show. Starscream and Megatron want to wipe out all organic life in the universe and use the Allspark in order to do it. That threat is very real and is showcased from the very beginning of the show. Also, these are the underdogs. They aren't equipped to handle one of the Decepticons, let alone a full battalion. They aren't warbots. They are programmed for maintenance, medicine, and tactics, but not for full-out war, and it shows with the vehicles they choose to use as disguises. Optimus is a fire truck. He has a hose and some clamps, but no heavy artillery. Meanwhile, Starscream is a freaking Harrier jet, Blitzwing is both a tank and a fighter jet, and Black Arachnia is a giant spider. Ugh. These Autobots are way out of their depth here, but they win using their intelligence and a little help from Sari. It's a very good start to the series, and I was hooked from the very beginning. From here, though, the plot takes a bit of a backseat as we're given a semi-episodic structure that introduces us to all of these characters as they grow and evolve while giving us hints of things to come in the future. There are episodes that focus on each member of the Autobots, their strengths and their weaknesses, giving us insight into their motivations and backstories, but we also have Megatron in the background as a talking head, manipulating events so that he can make his triumphant return. We have one-off human villains here and there, but there's also returning Decepticons later on, and bounty hunters to challenge the crew. In this way, the series has depth and character development, but still maintains an episodic structure that allows kids to tune in and not miss too many important details if they skipped an episode here or there. However, with the Decepticons looming in the background, it always feels like there is a credible threat waiting for the Autobots, and they aren't allowed to just rest easy with them always plotting. There are several episodes where Megatron hatches a plan to take down the Autobots or to get his body back, and they aren't just throwaway plans. He actually comes up with some really interesting schemes, such as when he invents Soundwave.
Conclusion, Autobots must be destroyed.
The idea is that Sari's key is a powerful tool for the Autobots, but if used for the Decepticons, that key is a humongous help. So he gives Sumdac plans to give Sari a boombox robot called Soundwave for her birthday that can evolve the more she uses her key to power it up. After a while, Soundwave gains sentience and decides that he isn't okay with humans enslaving robot kind and commands all of the worker robots in a robot revolution, which I'm guessing must have been the inspiration for Claptrap's revolution in Borderlands because it's pretty damn similar. Soundwave can even mimic the voices of other Autobots to manipulate them and cause utter chaos. It's a pretty damn good plan that only fails because Soundwave isn't as powerful as Bulkhead. But damn, this was a fantastic episode. Linkara has said to me many times that Soundwave is superior, and I have to concur. He is pretty damn badass, even if he only appears in one episode this season.
Autobots inferior, Soundwave superior.
He says on TV.
This is just one of Megatron's many plans, and it helps to give agency to the character. Because even as a head, he is thoroughly menacing and manages to nearly defeat the Autobots several times. Hell, he even creates the Dinobots and names Grimlock in one episode. That's pretty damn awesome in my book.
We Grimlock few. We Grimlock happy few. We band of Dinobots.
As for the human villains, while they are mostly one-off threats, they are quite interesting to see. Yes, there are some comedic ones that are defeated really quickly, like the Angry Archer, who is Green Arrow if he spoke in Ye Olden speak, and Professor Princess, who is me if I was a supervillain, but they are only around for a short while. Even so, they are quite humorous and enjoyable. In addition to them, we have Meltdown, a biotechnical engineer who accidentally becomes transformed by one of his experiments into a corrosive monster that can eat through any type of metal. Meltdown is one of the best human villains in the series, not only because he debuts in a wrestling parody, which is pretty damn awesome, but also because his motivations are understandable. He doesn't believe in robot technology and believes that human judgment is far superior, which does make a lot of sense. Unfortunately, his tech ultimately corrupts the user and overrides their morality. To run with the whole wrestling motif, it's kinda like how Vince McMahon corrupts his wrestlers and overrides their gimmicks. Meltdown's episodes are both very engaging and offer some of the best threats to the Transformers because of his abilities. Finally, we have Headmaster and Nanosec, who are a cross between comedic villains and serious threats. Nanosec is given an experimental suit that turns him into the Reverse Flash, whereas Headmaster is a mechanical genius who wants to use his Headmaster unit to remove the heads of warbots and pilot them for utter annihilation. Personally, I prefer Headmaster as a villain because while he is a bit comedic with his leet speak, he is at least a credible threat. He just loves creating destruction and wants to do it just cuz. Nanosec, on the other hand, is my least favorite of the human villains. He's like Reverse Flash if Dawn were incredibly dumb and wasn't a credible threat. His episode is the weakest in the series, and one of the only episodes I didn't enjoy this season because he's just awful at what he does, and his suit eventually makes him age somehow. Yeah, I don't like Nanosec all that much, but he's the only bad spot in the series, and one episode out of 16 that I didn't really enjoy. After a bunch of individual stories, we build up to the Season 1 finale, where Lugnut and Blitzwing steal the key from the Autobots and use it to finally bring back Megatron. And dear God, he is even more awesome than before. I didn't think that possible. Bruh. He's even larger now, he can transform into a helicopter, and he has 2 badass swords that can kick ass and take names. I freaking love it. With his newfound body, Megatron takes command of the Decepticons, incapacitating Starscream for his treachery after he bragged about killing Megatron like a complete idiot. Starscream, you gotta remember to double tap, my dude.
Don't get all stingy with your bullets.
It's like first grade. With forces in tow, Megatron leads an all-out assault to get the Allspark. He manages to obtain it, but Optimus in turn disperses its energy and cripples Megatron for the time being. To be honest, while I really love the first half of the finale and how these characters start to break apart due to events of prior episodes, like the Dinobots being saved against Optimus's wishes, the second half is not as strong. The first episode is perfect, ending in defeat for the Autobots, but the second has them regroup far too quickly and forgive each other without any clear resolution to the prior conflict. It really feels like it should have been 3 episodes, with the second focusing on resolving their issues and the third ending the battle against the Decepticons. As it stands, Lugnut and Blitzwing are defeated very easily when they gave the Autobots a large amount of trouble before, and it just boils down to the fight with Megatron. The end fight with Megatron and the small bits with Black Arachnia are really good, but again, it feels a bit too rushed for my liking. With that being said though, the story of Transformers Animated is overall very solid. It is engaging from start to finish, with individual character plots that allow them to grow while also establishing the power and looming threat of the Decepticons. The only faults I really take with it are the Nanosec episode and the rushed nature of the finale. But even then, it managed to keep me entertained throughout, and I highly enjoyed the new plans that Megatron came up with every single episode. It's like if you merged Power Rangers with the Lord Zed plans and Teen Titans with the ongoing story. It crafts a very enjoyable season, and I highly recommend it just for the plot alone. It may seem simple at first, but it does a lot of things right in making it both accessible and deep at the same time. Also, Soundwave superior. He is a transformer that turns into a cassette tape. He kicks ass, and that will never not be true, even though kids today probably don't know what a cassette tape is, but that doesn't matter, because he is awesome.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Who's delivering these strawberry peanut butter M&Ms?
That big truck.
Hello there. My name is Blitzwing, and I used to be scrawny like you humans watching this ad. Trust me, I know what it's like to be a used little robot with only one transformation, which is why I decided to pump you up so you could be the best version of yourself. Introducing Blitzwing's Buff Bod Emporium! Now 20% less deadly! With this program, you'll be able to get your itsy bitsy little butt into the shape of a dancer! Isn't that nice? The rules are simple. Simply send over the location of the Autobot secret base. I mean, send us the number on the front of your little plastic card and the 3 numbers on the back. Oh, and don't forget your social security number. Once they're in our possession, we will send you a package with all the necessities in order to begin the experiment. As you humans are organic, side effects may include vomiting, internal bleeding, excess weight gain, and a fear of chihuahuas.
This is why I hate machines!
Did I mention it has also been known to cure you of being a technophobe, like our dear Captain Fanzone?
Listen here, I don't fear technology. Does this look like fear to you?
How would I know? I don't have optics. Oh wait, I do. Silly me!
So, call now to receive Blitzwing's Buff Bod Emporium. We promise.
It'll totally not kill you. Pinky promise.
We now return to the Transformers.
Speaking of things that kick ass, let's take a look at the characters of Transformers Animated. To be honest, while there are quite a few characters that are important in Season 1, many of them are pretty static or don't have much character development, which is completely fine. It's just the first season after all, and much of the season is focused on introducing these characters and their ongoing struggles. I already discussed the human villains, so let's talk about the robot villains. And if you think I'm just talking about the Decepticons, then you'd be wrong. First up, we have Lockdown, who makes his debut in this series and is one of my top villains this season simply due to how menacing and resourceful the character is. He's a bounty hunter who works for the Decepticons but doesn't really have any allegiance. He only cares about upgrades and trophies that he steals from the Autobots, and that makes him powerful, especially given the EMP he stole from Ratchet many years ago during the Great War. The personal connection he has to Ratchet makes him really stand out, along with the stellar performance of Lance Henriksen, which is fitting given he plays Bishop in the Alien franchise, so he has experience playing an android. He delivers a chilling performance as Lockdown, and I hope to see more of him in the future because he is a wonderful villain. Then we have Black Arachnia, who is technically a Decepticon, but spends this season on her own since her goal is completely different. You see, Black Arachnia was once an Autobot known as Elita 1 who worked alongside Optimus Prime. A long time ago, Optimus and Elita were coerced into visiting a planet with organic life by Sentinel Prime, who wanted to search the planet for Energon cubes hoarded by the Decepticons, even though it was forbidden by Autobot command. Sentinel insisted against Optimus's wishes, stating that they would be hailed as heroes for bringing all of these cubes back. They are attacked by gigantic spiders who are very hard for the robots to damage. Elita's skill is copying the unique properties of other Transformers, but it doesn't work on organic life, so they end up outgunned and outnumbered by the spiders. While they end up finding the Energon stash, the ensuing fight with the spiders causes all of the Energon to explode. Optimus and Sentinel Prime escape, but it appears as if Elita had been killed in the ensuing blast. Sentinel places the blame for this solely on Optimus, which explains why he was transferred to the maintenance crew. So, yeah, Sentinel Prime is an absolute dick. It was his fault for Elita's supposed death, but we'll get to that in a future season, because so far, this is his only episode in the show. Unbeknownst to the Autobots, but knownst to us, Alita survived the explosion and the venom from the spiders transformed her into a robot with organic components known as a Predacon, which was a concept introduced in Beast Wars, as far as I know. Feeling abandoned by Optimus Prime, she joins the Decepticons to seek revenge against him and hopefully to become fully robotic once again. The difference between Black Arachnia and the Decepticons, though, is that she only allies with them in order to be turned back to normal and get rid of her organic components because she sees herself as a monster now. She doesn't agree with Megatron or his plans, but she uses them for her own personal gain, which puts her in a category of her own for this season. Black Arachnia's backstory really took me by surprise because I only knew of her as the scary Beast Morpher Predacon and wasn't expecting such a sympathetic origin. I completely understand where she's coming from and why she doesn't trust anyone anymore. In the ending to her episode, where she's forced to remain a Predacon, was really heart-wrenching, especially as she was reduced to tears by the end of the episode. Black Arachnia is a really interesting character in how she's portrayed, and her motivations are very different. She appears again briefly in the finale to further her own agenda, which I enjoyed, but she's unceremoniously kicked out of the finale later on, so it kinda felt underwhelming by the end. In any case, she is voiced brilliantly by Cree Summer, who I have loved ever since I heard her in Danny Phantom. She sells every single scene she's in, and I loved her character more as a result of this stellar voice acting. When moving on to the actual Decepticons, we have to start with Starscream, the supreme backstabber of the group. To be honest, while he is a Decepticon, Starscream also spends this season furthering his own agenda, which I like. He is very enjoyable to watch since he is quite powerful with his purple death lasers and he can fly, which is something the Autobots can't do. He establishes very early on just how enjoyable he is while still being a huge threat to the Autobots. That being said though, he is pretty dumb to be honest. Not in the same way that Lugnut is dumb, but more in how much of a braggart he is. He wastes no time in betraying Megatron in this season and spends the rest of it plotting against him and trying to be supreme leader of the Decepticons, but he never really tries to hide his deception to the rest of the Decepticons.
Megatron! Did you just say Megatron? Did he just say Megatron? There is no Megatron! Megatron is offline! Terminated! I did it myself! Saw it myself!
Yeah, he is not subtle at all. On the one hand, it is very stupid of him to do this, and he gets taken out by Megatron because of this attitude. However, he's just too enjoyable not to like. He is a ton of fun to watch in action, and he's voiced by freaking Tom Kenny. SpongeBob plays Starscream, supreme sponge of the Decepticons. I didn't think it would work at first, but damn, does he do a good job. It just goes to show that Tom Kenny has a lot of range and is a very good voice actor. Then we have Lugnut and Blitzwing, who don't do as much in this season. Lugnut is very much just a dumb powerhouse robot, while Blitzwing is the brains of the operation, although he is very scatterbrained because his triple changer experiments have given him multiple personalities, all of which are at odds with each other. There really isn't much more to them than that. Megatron relies on Lugnut's loyalty, but his stupidity gets them into trouble numerous different times, and Blitzwing focuses on taking on the Autobots, but his personalities get in the way.
That wasn't you, was it, Steven? Not a chance, mate.
It's a good introduction to all of them, but I prefer Blitzwing since he is a lot more fun and Lugnut is very one note. This is a shame because he's voiced by David Kaye, who you may know as Beast Wars Megatron or Duckworth in DuckTales 2017. A reminder that diving into DuckTales is still David Kaye approved, and thank you so much once again for doing that cameo for us. David Kaye is a wonderful person. Blitzwing is voiced by Bumper Robinson, who you may know from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Teen Titans, and many different characters in Static Shock. He does a brilliant job being serious and funny, and I love him in the role. But then we get to Megatron himself, and holy crap, is he one of the best versions of the character I have ever seen. He's friggin' enormous and has a menacing design that is a good blend of classic and modern Megatron. He has the presence of a villain who, when he's around, just screams, "You're fucked." And Corey Burton gives him a deceptively soothing voice that just adds to his menacing nature even when he's only a giant head. He did a great job in the role, and I highly enjoyed Megatron in this season. Unfortunately, the Autobots aren't quite as memorable. Not because they aren't good characters, but because most of the time they have one-note personalities. Bumblebee is the young hotshot of the group and is very impulsive. Bulkhead is the hulking wrecker bot, but wants to be seen as gentle, and Prowl is the wise ninja who instructs the others of the team and cares the most about preserving organic life. For the most part, these three don't really stray from their starting characteristics, though granted, there are episodes where they get some great moments. Bumblebee learns to be less brash and think things through. Bulkhead learns that his size isn't a bad thing, and Prowl's speeches on organic life are quite moving. That said, that's their entire character. They grow more ingrained in human society and want to protect humans more, but aside from Bumblebee's friendship with Sari and Prowl's meditation on organic life, their character arcs do tend to repeat throughout the season. I do enjoy these characters, especially with the voice cast, but they aren't all that deep just yet. We've got Bumper Robinson again in the role of Bumblebee, Jeff Bennett as Prowl, and Patrick Star himself, Bill Fagerbach, as Bulkhead. Yeah, this voice cast is awesome. Ratchet, on the other hand, does have some development beyond being just a grumpy old warbot, but it only extends to a couple episodes. That said, these episodes are great and show that while he is a grumpy old warbot with one servo in the scrap heap, he cares about his teammates deeply and will sacrifice himself to keep them safe. His story in The Thrill of the Hunt is really damn powerful because of the trauma in his past. To be honest, it is a bit annoying that RC, the female Transformer introduced in this episode, had to be mind-wiped in order to give Ratchet development, but I still really find it moving. Especially because at the end of the episode, Ratchet doesn't take back his EMP. He says that it's been turned into a weapon by Lockdown and uses it to destroy the console of the ship, but doesn't have it when he leaves the ship at the end of the episode. It shows that Ratchet wants to keep hold of the past and uses his scars as proof that his past means something and how to be better from the person he was before. This is a damn powerful episode and paints Ratchet as a badass who saves Optimus Prime single-handedly. I love it. Ratchet is also voiced by Corey Burton, who does a great job at playing up his old and tired personality while still carrying the weight of all the serious parts. He's just a terrific actor all around. And at last, we have the face of the series himself, Optimus Prime.
Now that is a name that commands respect.
this time weirdly not being voiced by Peter Cullen like he normally is, but rather David Kaye. It's weird to hear a younger take on Prime, but honestly, I think he did a phenomenal job portraying a version of Optimus who's not as experienced as the versions that we are used to normally. The interesting thing this time around is that there isn't that classic rivalry between Optimus and Megatron in this series because they don't know each other. They only met for the first time when Optimus found the Allspark, and this gives everything an entirely new dynamic. Optimus is young, inexperienced, and blames himself for what happened to Alita. He doesn't feel like he's cut out to be the leader of the group, and it allows him to grow and evolve as the season continues. He becomes a better leader, teaching Prowl the importance of working as a team in just the pilot episode, and we see his leadership grow as time goes on. He also has this really badass war axe that can grow and has jet engines inside of it, so that is just damn cool. He's much smaller and less powerful than Megatron, but he fights off the Decepticons using intelligence and tactics, proving he is fit to be in command. I really like this version of Optimus, and while I did find his straining leadership in the finale a tad annoying, he is constantly questioning his leadership because he isn't arrogant. He believes in his team, and he's one of my favorite versions of Optimus to date. I don't think he's quite as powerfully voiced as Peter Cullen in his Optimus speeches, but that's the point. He's unsure of himself, and that character development really does come through. It also lends better to comedy, such as when Sari teaches Optimus where babies come from.
Yet you organics are life. Which means we must protect you as well. But how is it you're able to make these new, smaller organics?
Yappe.
God, I love this show. Speaking of Sari, she is one of the few child characters in cartoons that I absolutely wholeheartedly adored from the very beginning of the show. Sari could have just been another annoying kid who gets into trouble, doesn't grow, and doesn't learn the consequences of her actions as she repeats her mistakes. Cough, Opus, cough. However, she bucks this trend by being an essential member of the team with her key. The Autobots treat her as an equal and defer to her on matters of organic life. She serves as a liaison to the group by providing information on humans, but she also repairs the Autobots, gets them out of trouble in numerous situations, and takes on the Decepticons with her key. While they are hesitant at first to put her in danger, time and time again, she proves that they need her help and that she is the 6th Ranger of the team. Granted, she is a bit hot-headed and gets into trouble with Bumblebee a lot, but she acts very much like an average kid, being selfish at times and bratty, but she always learns from the experience and grows as a result. She teaches the Autobots just as much as they teach her, and unlike someone like Opus, who actively frustrates me, she actively works to better herself and find her own way to help her friends. She's voiced by Tara Strong, who I'm sure I'll have more to talk about once we get into My Little Pony, but for now, I think she did a wonderful job in portraying Sari's childlike nature without stepping into the realm of annoyance. I love her character so goddamn much, and I can't wait to see her in future seasons. Seriously, she is basically the main character of the show and is the most interesting member of the team. Last, but certainly not least, we have Captain Fanzone, who is my favorite human character of the group. While he doesn't actually have much development over the course of the season, he is just a damn fun character. His gag of being a technophobe always got a huge laugh out of me, especially in the first Meltdown episode where the hot dog vendor sprays mustard on his dog instead of what he wanted. Mustard is completely gross, so his rage is completely justified. However, the episode that really cemented him as my favorite was Survival of the Fittest, where he alone overhears Prowl and Bulkhead saying that they rescued the Dinobots and follows them to the island to aid in the fight against Meltdown. He and Prowl prove to be a damn good team, and he agrees to help them out and not tell Optimus because the Dinobots are safe where they are. That's the thing with Fanzone. He may be a comedic character and talk with a thick Boston Canadian accent, and he may get crapped on by machines all the damn time, but he always does what is best for the people of the city. In the first Meltdown episode, he turns Prometheus down when he discovers the flaw in his biotech and continues to work with Somdak despite his hatred of machines. And in Survival of the Fittest, he is upset that they put Sari in danger, but sees firsthand that she can take care of herself. He believes in his friends and cares about everyone, and that is what makes him the true hero of the series.
I got away with machines.
In terms of presentation, this series holds up pretty damn well. The animation, while not the smoothest I've ever seen, is good for what it sets out to do. It's nothing supremely Sakuga like One Punch Man, obviously, but it beats the hell out of Generation 1 and its static as hell animation. It cuts corners at times to save budget with some gag animations, but most of the time, I'd say it's on par with Teen Titans. It creates an atmosphere where both serious and comedic events can happen without one distracting from the other. I love these character models, and when the show wants to get serious, like with Lockdown, they don't shy away from dark subject matter. In the finale, they friggin' rip off Ratchet's arm, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The show strikes a very good balance, and aside from Nanosec, which was completely unfunny, I think they did a great job with presentation and animation. As for the music, it's mostly just okay. I can't think of any really memorable pieces aside from the outstanding opening theme song. The opening slaps so damn hard, and I find myself humming it every now and again. They took something simple and managed to make it sound badass, and that's commendable. Other than that though, there's nothing really to note here. With that being said though, there is another version of Transformers Animated, which I haven't seen, nor is it easy to find. In 2010, the show got its long overdue Japanese release, which made a few changes to the story to have it better represent the Michael Bay films. I don't know what most of these changes are, aside from Bulkhead's name being changed to Ironhide, so I won't comment too much about this version on that end. But I do want to mention the Japanese opening for the series. This opening has no business slapping as hard as it does. Legit, I would watch an anime based on this opening alone because hot damn, it is Evangelion levels of making me pumped to watch someone fight giant robots. God, it's just so catchy. Speaking of things that are catchy, it's time for our newest segment of Zen TV. Last time, in the Star Trek episode, I didn't have as much to say about the story or characters for Season 1, so I created a segment where I discuss my 7 top and bottom episodes of that season. I've decided to bring that segment back, but this time with a brand new name. So with that being said, let us begin Rate 'em and Rank, where I rank my top and bottom episodes of the season. I'll be using this for almost all Zen TV episodes from here on out, and who knows, we may end up making individual Rate 'em and Rank videos if the topic warrants it in the future. Now, for Transformers Animated, I won't be discussing the worst episodes, since the only episode I found really underwhelming was Nanosec, and we've already talked about that at length. And a top 7 doesn't work all too well in this case, since the season is so short. So as such, let's discuss my top 5 episodes of Season 1. Number 5, Transform and Roll Out. Some may see this as cheating, since it is technically 3 episodes together, but I think that all multi-parters should be considered as one episode going forward, since they tell a single overall story, which works better for Rate 'em and Rank anyways. Besides, this pilot is just damn good at setting the stage for the show. It does a fantastic job with its pacing, and I fell in love with these characters because of it. Every show needs a good first impression, and this had me hooked from the get-go. Number 4, Survival of the Fittest. This is the second Meltdown episode, where he takes over the island the Dinobots are staying on, and uses his powers to coerce the Dinobots to work for him. Not only is this a good fan-zone episode because of how it fleshes out his character when he works with Prowl, but this is a fantastic Dinobot episode, making me feel really sorry for Grimlock because he was burned by Meltdown. Grimlock is one of my favorite characters with no allegiance, simply because of the way he talks, and seeing him sorry to attack the Autobots, but have to because Meltdown burned him, made me like him even more.
Meltdown not hurt Dinobots. Dinobots hurt Meltdown.
That scene is enough to make any bunny love Grimlock, and just, me love Grimlock. Grimlock best Dinobot. Number 3, Sound and Fury. I already went into detail about this one earlier, but this is the Soundwave episode. It reinforced Linkara's point that Soundwave is superior, which again, I completely agree with. Any robot that can be a boombox rave machine and mimic the voices of other robots to confuse them is cool in my book. It's also one of Megatron's better plans, so I gotta give it props there. Soundwave is just superior. Number 2, The Thrill of the Hunt. Another one I've discussed in detail already. This is Ratchet's breakout episode, showing how he is more than just an old grumpy medical bot. His backstory brought a tear to my eye and cemented Ratchet as one of the baddest bots in the crew. Absolutely loved it. And Lockdown for that matter. It's just a fantastic episode. Number 1, Along Came a Spider. I don't think any individual episode made me love this series as much as Along Came a Spider. It is just brilliantly handled from start to finish. It serves as the Halloween episode with everyone in costume, which is a fantastic touch. Sari dresses up as Optimus Prime, which is extremely cute. Bulkhead is a ghost, and Bumblebee dresses as Count Dracubot, which is one of the best moments of the show, and I am seriously upset that I didn't see this before I reviewed Dracula, because it is just so fitting when he gets into character.
Welcome! I am Count Dracubot. I want to drink your motor oil.
Add to this wonderful premise the amazing backstory of Black Arachnia that made me cry buckets by the end, and you have a stellar episode. Along Came a Spider is my benchmark for future Transformers episodes. If you can outdo this episode in future seasons, I consider that a win. Because this, my friends and my buns, this is a fantastic episode. Overall, Transformers Animated Season 1 is fantastic and a breath of fresh air when it comes to content my patrons have requested. While I do still think Dark Crystal deserves its place in history, it was kind of a slog to get through. But I loved the grand majority of this show from start to finish. The opening is catchy, the pilot had me hooked from the beginning, the story is engaging, and the characters are all interesting and grow over time. While there are indeed problems, such as Nanosec, some of the human villains being very one-note, the finale being rushed, and some of the lessons being repeated for characters, that didn't matter much in the moment. I honestly had a blast watching this season, and now I want to seek out more Transformers content. Perhaps Armada to relive my youth, or G1 to see how that holds up. In any event, however, I don't think it'll take another request for me to cover more of Transformers Animated because I really do like this season. For now though, it gets the coveted Kana stamp of Approval Plus. And honestly, if it proceeds to get better with its remaining 2 seasons, I may very well have to bump the show as a whole up to a super stamp of approval. But only time will tell. This show is definitely worth your time. And while I don't think everyone will enjoy the episodic nature, it is still a worthy addition to any Buns collection. With all that being said, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and I will see you all next time. Sorry for those who were expecting friendship is magic, but in this case, the needs of the patrons come before the needs of the average buns, which is why for the next Zen TV episode, we'll be tackling another patron request as we look into the first season of the recent Netflix original series, Arcane League of Legends. After that, I'll finally get to the first season of My Little Pony, assuming nothing else is patroned in that time period. And we'll see where we go from there. In any case, if you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that you too can join the Bun Squad, my legion of cute, fluffy bunnies that enjoys my videos. And while you're here, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Special thanks to Kyle Huxtable, James Bevan, The Smartest Moron, and Seraphim for supporting the channel already. Another reminder that if you donate $20, you'll have a chance to request a movie, game, TV show, or anime of your choosing for me to review on the Bun Squad. Thanks once again to Troy for requesting this series. I very much look forward to seeing what else you have in store for me to review in the future. And as always, don't forget to hit that bell so that you can get notified of every new video. Have a good one, everybody!
I see. So, you don't know anything either. Well, you have this number now, so call if you see Zen anywhere or find any sign of her.
Yeah, certainly. I hope she's safe and sound. It's not like Zen to disappear like this.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, in any case, I'll let you know if I see anything. It's possible Cartoon Hero or one of my other contacts knows where she is. I'll keep looking and check back in soon.
Thanks. Talk to you later. Chiaki's right, this is getting me nowhere. Although she didn't have to be so aggressive about it. I wish Zen were here so I could talk some sense into... Wait a minute. Wasn't the last thing we talked about regarding how Kana and Chiaki were able to talk? You know what? Fuck it. It may be against my better judgment to stop looking for Zen, but this ends now. I have to find out what's not right about their alibi. Well, guess it's time to finally pull out this light novel. Okay. Alright. Oh. 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 Oh my god! Oh, I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew something didn't make sense about it. Well, at least that's figured out. Now all I need to find out is why those two lied and how they got this way to begin with. I think it's about time to figure out just who Kana and Chiaki really are.